Hello everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I really hope you're doing okay and having a great day and an amazing week. My name is Effy and today we're testing some new makeup. I picked up a bunch of stuff from the brand 17, which is available in Boots. I'm pretty sure it is a Boots own brand, but it is super cheap. I can't remember the prices. I'll try to list them in the description box, but everything was pretty cheap. 17 was a brand a long time ago, but they disappeared and they've come back and they have a new sort of glow up. The logo has changed and the packaging has all changed. It all looks honestly really good. I look forward to trying it. I did purchase everything in this myself. Yeah. Let's just get on with it, shall we? If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. I put up a video every Wednesday and it is always makeup related, so if that sounds like the type of thing, then this is the place for you. But other than that, let's get going. Okay, so I'm going to clip back my hair, but I only have one clip, so I'm just going to do the old twist and clip. As always, we're going to start with the eyes. I have got this eye primer. I was surprised they had an eye primer, but they do. They only had one shade, which makes me think it's either translucent or it's just one sort of universal shade. But let's pop this on. Okay, it's sort of one universal shade. If I had to say what this reminded me of the most, it reminds me of the Too Faced eye primer. I can't remember what it's called, but I actually didn't like that primer because it was a bit too oily. This doesn't have that problem. It actually feels very matte. It feels sort of almost like a, kind of like a silicone-y primer, but just for your eyelids. It has given a little bit of coverage. It has blanked out a little bit of my lid, nothing major, but it's a nice level. I'm not mad at it. I actually think that feels really nice on the eyes. Now for eyeshadow, I picked up this little 9-pan palette. It is in the style shade whatever 010 Golden. It's got 9 shades, 5 mattes, 4 shimmers. I'm not going to swatch anything just yet because I'll probably end up using the majority of the shades anyway. And we're going to start just blanking out and setting my lid with this lightest shade up in the corner. In terms of blanking out my lid, setting my lid, absolutely fine. I will say, obviously, this is a skin tone colour for me. And when I said that, I did think, actually, I should maybe comment on the depth of this palette. As you can see, it doesn't have a lot of it. It's not very deep. I wouldn't say this is dark skin friendly. It sort of looks suitable for pale to medium skin. Maybe, hopefully. But I do think it's a nice little everyday palette if you do have that sort of skin tone. But obviously we would prefer a bit more, just a little bit more depth. Now I'm going in with this shade here, just as a transition. I'm going to skip this sort of like middle shade because to me it looks a little bit more pinky and it looks a little bit out of place in the palette, if I'm being honest. Because the rest of the palette is sort of cool tone, it's sort of warm toned, and that's sort of airing on cool, in my opinion. But maybe I'll use it at some point. That shade's really nice. Even on me it is a little bit pale, so I feel like even maybe medium skin tones might potentially struggle with it. And I am having to dip into the shade quite a lot, which doesn't bother me, but it is something to note. I just don't think it has the most pigment in the world, but it has gone on nice. It will make a really nice transition shade for me between like my skin tone and the other brown shades in the palette. So I do quite like it. I'm just conscious that it might not work for a lot of people. Next, we're going to move along the depth scale and go for this one here in the middle at the bottom. I much prefer this shade. I'm not finding myself having to dip in as much. It definitely has a little bit more pigment to it. And I am liking the look I'm creating. It's sort of giving me, I would call this almost like soft autumn vibes. It's not giving me depth that you would expect from an autumnal look, but it's definitely giving me that sort of softer, warmer sort of palette. I would describe it as like caramel, toffee, biscuit, words that are making me hungry, but it does look like very lovely on the eyes. I think it actually works really well with my eye colour. I have like dark grey, bluey sort of eyes, and I feel like it's making them look a little bit more blue, which is what warm browns will do to blue eyes. But yeah, I am really liking it. So far so good. And then for the last matte, it is this one down in the corner. I will say it is a little bit disappointing that this is the darkest brown. I sort of almost wish they had like a chocolatey brown in here. But it is what it is. Let's see how this one works. I'm a bit disappointed by this shade. I feel like it's not really giving me much. It's not adding to this look really at all. I feel like it's quite hard to tell it's even on my eyes. Maybe it is giving me a little bit more depth, more shadow in my crease, but nothing crazy. I feel like it kind of already looked like this when I started putting the shade on, which makes me kind of sad that this is the darkest shade. I kind of wish this sort of like lighter pinky shade wasn't there and they just had a darker brown, or even I wouldn't go so far as to say a black. I don't think a black would work, but like a dark, rich, chocolatey, warm brown would have been really nice. Now for shimmer, there's 4 in the palette. I'm just going to pop them on my fingers so that we can see them all. Ooh, they actually look really nice. They are definitely more of a metallic as opposed to like the glittery look that I like. This one felt the best, which is this one here. I might just go for that one all over my lid. Yeah. Why not? It felt really nice, it felt really buttery. I'm going for this one here. That's actually really quite nice, to be honest. It has fallen out quite a lot on my face, as you can see. But it looks really nice. This is definitely more of a work look for me. Nothing too crazy, nothing too extravagant. But like I said, this brand isn't expensive, so I'm not looking for anything too crazy or too extravagant. I'm going to go in with a little bit of this gold shade down at the bottom, just on my inner corner to sort of brighten it up a little bit. Yeah, definitely really nice. Like I said, the shimmers are a bit more metallic-y, shimmery, as opposed to like glittery, which I like, but I do think these are quite nice for the everyday. They are quite nice. Thoughts on the palette? I will clean up my fallout in a moment. But thoughts on the palette, I do quite like it. I do like the look I've created. It is very everyday, very sort of wearable, which is good. We like that. I do wish the palette went a little bit darker. It's great that they have such a light shade in here, but I kind of wish they had a equally as dark shade in here. The shimmers are quite fine, like nothing major, but nothing terrible either. For the price, pretty reasonable. I would just personally top this with something a bit more glittery. But that's just me and my preferences. I do like how this look has come out. I would get this if you were looking for a nice, cheap, warm-toned eyeshadow palette. I would get that. It's good. I'm going to clean up my fallout and then we'll move on to base. Time for primer, and I have the Photo Filter Balm Primer. Lightweight balm primer to instantly achieve that smooth and perfect skin look. Okay. Ooh. This is quite hard to sort of like warm up on your fingers. It is taking quite a bit of effort to sort of get some up onto my finger. Maybe I should just dig my nail into it a bit. I've just sort of taken some on the back of my nail. This isn't going very well. I was sort of expecting it to be like the e.l.f. putty primer where you can just sort of warm it up on your fingers a little bit and get a decent amount out. And you can do that, it just takes a little bit longer. Okay, that's probably all I'm going to do. I will say it's given me a nice sort of like soft feel to my skin. It was a bit of effort. It doesn't smell of anything if people were wondering. Not a big fan of that. I do think you can get similar products for similar prices. Like the e.l.f. one can be a bit expensive if you're looking for really cheap makeup, but Makeup Revolution do a similar one. And it's a little bit easier to work with. Time for foundation. And we have the Second Skin Enhancing Foundation in the shade 002N, which I'm assuming is neutral. Long-lasting liquid foundation with medium coverage for a natural, healthy looking base. I'm not a massive fan of these sort of like squeezy foundations because I always feel like that just blew air into my eye. I always feel like I'm putting too much on. As you can see, my skin hates me at the moment. I'm breaking out all over the place. Do I know why? No. Has it been going on for quite a while? Yes. Not happy about it. I will use a brush on one side of my face just because I actually think this foundation might fare quite well with a brush. So we'll do this side with a brush. Okay, I'm trying not to judge it too quickly because I've not used it with a sponge yet, but I'm going to go ahead and say that I need more than what is already on my face. But we'll do the sponge side and see if I still feel like that. I actually think it's giving me relatively similar coverage on both sides, so maybe that just is the coverage level that it has. It says it's a medium coverage. Maybe this is medium coverage, but I'm just so warped by all the full coverage foundations that used to be a thing that I just think this is very low coverage. I'm going to try putting some more on to see if that sort of builds up a little bit. And I'm just going to blend it in with my sponge. Even though I will say I don't think the brush worked badly, I actually think it looks quite nice. On both sides, I just prefer a sponge. Okay, I don't like this foundation really at all. It can't, like, I know that some people are going to understand what I'm going on about, some of you really aren't. Does anyone remember what foundations used to be like, maybe like 10 years ago? Where they kind of all just sort of look a bit crap, but we're not used to anything better, so we just live with it and think it's good. Just me. I think from afar it looks okay. I've just realised how incredibly uneven my eyebrows are. Like, this one starts back here and this one starts way up here. This one needs to stop. Okay, ignore the eyebrows. Yeah, it just kind of like, the bare minimum I expect from a foundation, no matter what the coverage, is that it evens out my skin tone. I feel like this doesn't do that. I feel like you can still see a lot of like red blotchiness and things like that, and actually I think it accentuates it. I think my skin actually looked better without the foundation in terms of that. I do think it's given a little bit of coverage on my like spots and blemishes, so I'm not mad at that. I don't know, and it looks really dry and it's like emphasizing my pores. Yeah, I just really don't like this foundation. Not a big fan. Let's just move on. I have a concealer. This is the Second Skin Enhancing Concealer in the shade 001N. So again, hopefully neutral. I do like the doe foot. It's a small doe foot, but it's slightly curved, which is weird. But let's give this a go. Just from putting this on, I will say it's sort of a bit weird. It feels very thin in formula. It feels quite nice. It's taken my foundation off. Okay. What I was saying was that it feels quite nice and thin, but then also feels like it has a decent amount of coverage in it. That's literally just where that was sat on my skin. It's taken the... Okay. I feel like it's done the same here. Okay. That eye went fine. Try the forehead. I feel like it's done the same. How weird. And it's kind of done it on my nose as well. Who had bets on this video going badly? Oh, I thought it was going to go so well. Okay, what I'm going to say is I feel like it's not obvious on camera, which is annoying. But it's almost like the area where I initially put the concealer took the foundation off my skin, but then when I've blended it out, the area around it that I've blended it out to, it sat fine, and then the area where it was just has a layer of concealer, so it looks like the area where I put it on has less coverage than the area around it, and it's sort of just leaving like, not like a skin, like a blotch where there's no coverage, but just a patch where there's less coverage. How weird. I wonder maybe if the foundation and the primer don't work well together. And my skin just looks in general really dry. This isn't going well. Yeah, my skin looks really dry. Pores are emphasised, fine lines are emphasised. I think from afar, and it's really annoying because I think on camera I look fine. My chair keeps sinking. I feel like I'm getting worked up about this. From afar, I think I look okay. It's up close that's really bad. But we're gonna move on. Powder. Okay. We're gonna try and stay calm. This is the Perfecting Finish Translucent Powder, and it doesn't look like there's a lot in here, to be honest. Okay, this is a very finely milled powder. I can sort of tell that already. I will actually say, I think the concealer looks fine under my eyes, which is what makes me think it's the foundation and the primer, because the foundation and the primer didn't go under my eyes. I kind of don't want to powder my face because it already looks so dry, but we're going to do it anyway. In a strange turn of events, I actually think I quite like the powder. It's quite hard to judge because of the base that it's on, but I actually do think it's quite nice. It's very finely milled, which I enjoy. It's very easy to just sort of dust onto the face. It's not giving me any sort of cast. Yeah. I quite like that. Hopefully we can go onwards and upwards from here. We'll see, but I actually think I quite like that. Obviously I need to test it again by itself, but so far I do quite like it. Now for blush, I have the Powder Blush Edit Cheek Colour in the shade 010 Coppertone. I do feel like I'm having to dip in quite a bit to get the level of pigment that I want, but I do think it's a very nice tone. It almost has like a little bit of gold to it, which is quite nice. I obviously have a lot of these sort of like, I call them apricot-y shades because I think peach is slightly more pink, but these sort of peachy, apricot-y vibes, I have quite a few of these blushes, but I actually quite like this one because I think it does have a little bit of like a golden-y, not even a glow, just almost like something to it. I don't know. I do think it looks quite nice. I don't think it's dried out my skin any more than it already was. I do think it goes very nicely with the eyes. Yeah, I actually quite like this. I would keep using this. I will keep using it. I like that a lot. That has cheered me up a little bit. Now we'll move on to bronzer, and this is the Glow and Define bronzer in 010. There are descriptions on the back of all of these, but I've given up reading them. I'm excited for this because it does look a little bit more cool tone, so maybe it's a bit more of a contour. Then at the same time it looks very pale. And pigment doesn't seem to be this brand's strong suit. I actually do quite like it. Something about the tone is putting me off. I feel like I'm being super picky and I apologise for that, but I do feel like this has almost a little bit of like mauvey, purpley sort of a vibe to it, which I'm not opposed to. It works as a good contour shade for me, but something to be aware of. I think it works really nicely on my nose. It does have pigment, but a bit like everything else, be prepared to dip in a bit more than you would normally. Now, I would say that if you are newer to makeup, if you can be a bit heavy-handed with certain things, these products would actually work really, really well. And actually, I think in general, if you're a beginner to makeup, you should potentially be buying cheaper makeup anyway, just because you can make a lot of mistakes when you've not been doing makeup for a while and you don't want to ruin really expensive makeup. You'd rather ruin something like this as opposed to like a Too Faced chocolate bronzer, which costs like 30 quid at least. So yeah, I do think this is good, and I do think it's good for starting out in makeup, which isn't a bad thing. Like, I quite like this bronzer. I would use it again. I quite like the blush. I would definitely use that again. I've been doing makeup on myself for years, so nothing wrong with that. But I do think maybe the target audience for this brand should be people starting out in makeup, which I realised just now the brand is called 17, so maybe it is actually more aimed at teenagers, which would make a lot of sense. But yeah, bronzer, back to the bronzer. I do like it. I do. I feel like on camera, I don't look like I really have much colour on my face. I look kind of washed out, which the camera does anyway, fine. But there's just not enough pigment going on. I feel like this looks nice for a work day, but that's fine. Highlighter. We have Lights On highlighter powder in 010 Champagne. Let's see how this goes. It's subtle. Again, I don't dislike it. I think for every day, it's fine. I just feel like this brand just isn't giving me what I want from my makeup. But it's okay. Let's just carry on. Brows, we have the full definition brow pencil in the shade 030 Ashy Brown. We have a spoolie on one end and a little, oh, it's a circular little tiny circle shaped pencil. I forgot the word. Spoolie is going to be just a standard spoolie. It's a bit short and I feel like the pencil's a bit thin, so it's quite hard to actually get it to touch your brows, but that's fine. It's just me being, quite frankly, in a bad mood at this point. Do you want to just guess my opinion with me at this point? I don't love it. And once again, I feel like it's actually a pigment issue. I don't think this has enough pigment. I feel like I'm pressing pretty hard on my skin. And if you've watched my videos for a while, you'll know that I shave off the ends of my brows and apparently the middle of them as well on this one. But I shave off the ends of my brows and I draw my tails back on. This is not doing what I want it to. You can sort of see here, it's just a bit too pale. And I think the colour is fine. It just doesn't have enough pigment to really do what I want it to. On top of that, it almost feels a little bit waxy and I'm not enjoying the feel of holding it, which I know sounds so petty and pedantic, and it probably is because I'm now just in a bad mood with this makeup. I don't like the feel of it, it's a bit too thick. I generally tend to use much thinner pencils. I can't find my one, but much thinner pencils, so I'm just not used to holding this. I don't hate it. However, if I were doing my brows and I was using this, I would then want to go in with another pencil that had more pigment just to sort of add some definition to the ends of my brows. So I would use this again. I'm not completely ruling it out. It's not terrible, but I would want to use it with something else. Or at the very, very least, I'd want to use it with like a tinted brow mascara that was a little bit darker, just to sort of give some definition in there. Mascara. This is the Extreme Extension Lengthening Mascara, and I actually got the shade 020 Brown because I don't own a brown mascara. Everybody hypes up brown mascara and I wanted to try one, but I didn't want to spend loads of money on one. So I thought I'd just get a cheap one, and then if I fancy having brown lashes, I can just chuck this on and it's not a big deal. I'm going to read the description on this one. The longest you've ever known. Give your lashes definition and extreme length with our Eco Fiber Formula Mascara. Oh, it's been ophthalmology test. Oh, I can't pronounce the word. It's been tested on people's eyes, is what that means, I think. Okay. Ooh, my wand's a little bit bent. I don't know if that's on purpose. But actually, I'm very surprised. The wand reminds me a lot of the Benefit Bad Girl Bang mascara, and if you know, you know. I love that mascara, so I'm quietly hopeful, and now let's just watch me be completely disappointed. And I've just realised I haven't got anything on my lower lash line in terms of eyeshadow, so I'll quickly do that and then we can watch me be disappointed. That will do. I don't think it makes much of a difference anyway, but I just chucked some browns on. I apologise for people who are watching this video and have never seen my videos before, because normally I'm a lot more positive than this. Maybe not a lot more positive, but slightly more positive. And I keep sinking in my chair. There we go. No longer look like just a floating head. Okay, now finally, let's get this on. That's the best product I've tried so far today. That's genuinely such a nice mascara. I think it makes it look like my lashes are really long. I like the brown effect because I feel like it's not too, I don't even know the word, it's not too like too much contrast, because obviously my hair isn't black, my brows aren't black. Why would my lashes be black naturally? They wouldn't be. This is quite nice. I think the fact that it's brown instead of black is very subtle. I don't think you'd look at me and be like, oh, she doesn't have black mascara on. That's actually really nice. In terms of it being similar to the Bad Girl Bang, I think it is very similar to the Bad Girl Bang mascara, which makes me happy. I really like that. Let's do a lip liner. This is the wrong shade before anybody comments. It's the Lip Define Pencil Soft Liner in the shade Rose Brown. I don't know why I got this shade because even my lipstick is like not rosy at all, but we're gonna give it a go. It's just a standard pencil sharpenable, which is good. I actually quite like that. It's maybe not as creamy as other lip liners, and I think in the context of other cheap lip liners I've tried, I would definitely always recommend the MUA lip liners over any other cheap ones. But this isn't too bad. It does work. It does have quite a lot of pigment, works very well. It's maybe not as creamy. Maybe I have to work with it a little bit more. Not as hydrating on the lips, but definitely not terrible. Not terrible. Now for the lipstick. This is just the cream lip in the shade 010 Pale Nude. She is pale. And I'm obviously not putting this all over my lips. We're just putting it in the middle. Okay? Relax. Okay, what I'm going to say is, it's not what I was expecting. It's not got like the pigment and the opacity of a regular lipstick. It's almost like, it's got a lot of slip to it. It's almost like a highly pigmented tinted lip balm. Because it does feel nice. It feels very nice on the lips. It does have a nice level of pigment. And actually, even though I'm saying that, I'm going to use this a lot because I like to lighten up the centre of my lips, and if I can use this with just a lip liner and get like a similar effect, this is actually quite nice. Yeah, and it does feel quite nice and hydrating. How bizarre. I actually quite like that. Obviously it would suit this look better if I'd used a brown, but we will ignore that. Final thoughts, anyone? I am always going to try cheap makeup and try and make it work for me so that I can recommend it to people, because I know cost of living sucks, makeup is expensive, you don't want to be spending most of your wages on makeup. Would I recommend this brand in totality? No. If I'm being completely honest, I wouldn't say go to 17. But I do think that this brand just doesn't have enough good products that I would recommend for me to be able to say that this is a brand I would recommend. In terms of products, I think both the lip products were fine. The mascara, obviously really liked that. I think the eyeshadow was fine. The blusher was fine. But like everything else is either sort of meh or not good. I'm a little bit disappointed. I feel like brands like MUA and Revolution and Collection have really set a good bar for cheap makeup, and when other brands just don't meet that standard, it's pretty obvious. But I don't think these products are bad. And like I said, if you're somebody who maybe potentially has a daughter who's getting into makeup or a son who's getting into makeup, and you just want to get them some inexpensive makeup to test out and play with, this is probably a good shout. Definitely better than going to like Claire's or whatever. Yeah, and actually I think I do look quite nice, especially from a distance. I think I look fine. If I went to work looking like this, or if I went out looking like this, I wouldn't be disappointed. Yeah, that's sort of it. But there we go. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I feel like I'm being too harsh yet again, but let me know what you think. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. I put up a video every Wednesday and it's always makeup content, so if that sounds like your type of thing, then this is the place for you. But anyway, I hope you have a great day and an amazing week, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!